In order to produce an American T sound, the tip of your tongue needs to touch on the bottom ridge of your upper gums, unlike the tip touching in the center of your upper hard palate, like for the Indian T sound. Let's try this now. T. Say this 5 times. Now let's practice T sound with some words. Tomorrow, tour, terrible, teenage, terminate, table, time, tournament, turn, tough, tap, tone tennis, terrific, trial, tiny, type, tongue. Now let's practice T sound with some American names. Tony, Thomas, Todd, Teresa, Tyrone, Tyrone, Tom, Trevor. Rule 1: if T is in the beginning of a word, plosive T in all cases. Example: it took him 10 times to try the telephone. Stop touching Ted's toes. Turn towards Stella and study her contract together. Control your tears. It's Tommy's turn to tell the teacher the truth. Timothy and Todd told Teresa, their secretary, to total up their accounts.
T sound rule number 2. If T is in the middle of 2 vowels, a soft D sound is produced. Keep in mind that the soft D should not be mistaken with an exact D sound. Otherwise, that would be quite heavy. For the soft D sound, your tongue needs to flap up to the bottom ridge of your upper gums. This is the same position as the plosive or American T sound. However, in this case all you need to do is flap at that position and not apply any effort. For example, butter, computer, matter, water, waiter, later, Saturday, positive, pattern, bottle.
Next, there are 2 columns. The left column has 14 sentences, and the neutral accent for each of them is spelled out in brackets in the right column. The sentences have words, most of which have T sound in the middle, and some have T sound at the end. Note that words beginning with T sound are not given in the list.
Examples for T sound. Rule number 2: listen to the sentences carefully and focus on the soft D sound. What a good idea! Put it in a bottle. Write it in a letter. Set it on the metal gutter. Put all the data in the computer. Insert a quarter in the meter. Get a better water heater. Let her put a sweater on. Betty's at a meeting. It's getting hotter and hotter. Patty ought to write a better letter. Frida had a little metal bottle. Betty bought a bit of better butter. Pat ought to sit on a lap.
Plosive T sound. Rule number 3. If T is at the end of a word, held T is produced. In this case the T sound is almost silent, but not exactly silent. For this the tip of your tongue needs to touch on the front wall of your upper gums. It needs to be more like a resting position. That's why it's called a held T. There's no effort at the end, so there's no sound either.
Here is a list of sentences with T sound at the end. Take it. It's what they want to get. Put them back in the pot. Set the clock back at the event. What did you find at that site? We hope you have understood the 3rd rule. Now see the 4th rule about the T sound. If not, go back to the lesson, and practice until you are perfect in your pronunciation. Plosive T sound rule number 4. T before the N is also a held T sound. But in this case the flapping motion is more in use. For example, shorten, written, fountain, mountain, rotten, eaten. Now practice with some examples of T sound for this rule. We tried to shorten the kindergarten class. Courtney had written about the fountain of youth. The sumo wrestlers had eaten well to fatten up. Whitney's rotten kitten has bitten Martin. They've eaten a lot of chutney in Britain. The molten lava poured down the mountain. We are certain that the satin mitten is near the curtain. The last rule, Rule 5, is also about N in the word, but here the T follows N immediately. If N is before the T, then the T goes silent. For example, internet, interact, interview, international, percentage, advantage. The following 10 sentences illustrate Rule 5. He interrupted 20 interviews in Toronto. There was a large percentage of international students. He won't even interfere with the interaction. We took full advantage of the internet. He drove interstate through to Atlanta. He's at the Intercontinental Hotel. He wasn't even helping out. He hasn't bothered you much, has he? We won't always do it, believe me. Patty was quite right, wasn't she? Now, let's practice. Listen to the audio reading out a passage for the T sound. You should first find out which of the 5 rules apply to the T sounds given in the passage. Trevor, Todd and Teresa would tie up together every night and go out for the movies. Their favorite movie was The Teacher Taught the Truth to Tony. Todd and Teresa were quite fond of tourism. In fact, they thought of touring together to 20 different tourist spots. Trevor, however, was a typical untidy person. So for him, packing for a tour seemed terrible.
Now, pause the program and solve the exercises in your workbook.
For complete course on voice and accent, visit our website at letstalk.company.in.